So we got to Sunbreak, which is Monster Hunter Rise expansion. So on Monster Hunter Rise you have like village, low rank, high rank, and the end game. On Monster Hunter Sunbreak you have master rank, which is harder than high rank, and you have its end game. And to me, it feels like they improved everything they could from Rise. Like there is a lot of new stuff that is just better. Like on Rise, we can have some pets that will help us in the quests, but they are like randomized. But then on Sunbreak, they introduced a way to like change the skills that these pets come with. And then they also added layered weapons, which is the cosmetics. You can have on Rise, you can have cosmetic armor. So you have one armor equipped for the stats, and you can have another armor equipped for just cosmetics, just to show. And on Sunbreak, they also added the layered weapons. So you can have one weapon you use for the stats, for the damage, or whatever. And then you can have another one that like you found that was pretty, or like you don't really like the appearance of the weapon you're using, so you can use the layered weapon. So they improved on a bunch of stuff. But they did not improve on the story. Because I don't know, I just feel like the story for Sunbreak is just way too simple. I know that Monster Hunter games have kind of the same story, which is we have a problem that is caused by this monster, so we need you to fight him. So you fight that monster, and then we discover that the problem we had was actually caused by this other monster. And Sunbreak follows that very strictly. While on Rise, there is like some changes, like, okay, we have the problem, which is the rampage, and it's caused by Magnamalu. So you need to fight him. So you fight Magnamalu, the rampage continues, and then we discover that actually Magnamalu was not the cause, and he was just feeding on the monsters from the rampage. And then we find Ibushi, which is the real cause. So we deal with him, but then we discover that he is just half of the problem, because there is also Narua. So if we fight her, and then we solve the problem. On Sunbreak, is like the monsters are being aggressive. We don't really know the reason why, but we have a suspicion that Malzino, this elder dragon, is causing the problem. So we need to investigate that, and then we just do some quests, like random quests that don't really advance the story until we fight Malzino. And then it's like, oh, Malzino was actually not the cause, and the cause was this other monster, so we need you to fight him. And it's just that. There is not much depth to it. You can like search the lore of Sunbreak story, and then you will find a bunch of other stuff. But it's not like they don't show that to you. It's kinda like Dark Souls. On Dark Souls you have pieces of lore here and there, and then you have to piece everything together to fully understand it. So I feel like with Sunbreak is kind of that, which I'm not really a big fan of. And I think that at least in this In this case, it would be way better if they just told us everything we need to know. Oh, on Dark Souls, sure, it works, and I like in there, but not in this game. I can't really pinpoint the problem, but yeah. The presentation, on the other hand, is way better, because on Rise, you will have parts of the story that are told on cutscenes, and you can rewatch the cutscenes. But part of the story will be told through dialogue lines. You have through dialogue you have with other characters, and you cannot access these dialogue lines again. So if you, for whatever reason, wants to kind of do a new game plus, which does not exist, but if you want to do something kind of like that without having to create a new character, you can't, because a lot of Rise's story will be in these dialogue lines. And I don't feel like the same happens on Sunbreak, or at least does not happen so often as it does in Rise, which is great because you can kind of replay the story now. You can fight the monsters in the order you need to fight, and then just rewatch the cutscenes on the moments you have to. It's still not perfect, but yeah, you can do that. So yeah, on Sunbreak was when I changed my weapon another time. So as I said, I started with longsword, changed it to sword and shield, and then went back to the longsword, and then due to Nagakuga, I changed it to the charge blade. And on Sunbreak, when I was playing Sunbreak, they introduced Furious Rajang, which is this Super Saiyan monkey. And I was having a really hard time fighting him. So I went back to the training room and I looked at other weapons and I found Lance. Which is it's a really oversized lance and a shield. So I could block I could block this monster attacks easier. I could still block with the charge blade, but with lance it's way easier to just block the monster's attacks and to just counter them. And I played a lot of hunts with lance. With charge blade, I played most of Rise, and until half of Sunbreak, I believe, or at least until they introduced Rajang. And then I played, which I believe it's kind of endgame stuff. And then I played the entire endgame with Lance, because I really liked that weapon. I like the idea of using the monster power against them. And Lance has one skill that does that, which is Anchorage. Anchorage, when you use that skill, your character will get into a blocking stance, and if the monster attack you and he hits your shield, you will immediately counterattack with a strength based on the monster attack strength. So if he attacks you with a powerful attack, you will counter with a powerful attack. And then you also boost your weapon damage for a little bit of time. And I really like that idea. But yeah, I feel like there is not much I feel like there is not much to talk about Sunbreak because that it's just that the story does not have much depth to it. It's just like, okay, the monsters are aggressive, so we need to fight them. We need to put them in check, and now we need to fight Malzino, right? We found where Malzino is hiding, so we need to fight him. And well, turns out Malzino is not the cause of the problem, so now we need to fight Gaismagor. Um, and then the game ends, or at least the story. So the fights are still cool, but I don't know. I just feel like the story could be better developed. You know, like Rise follows the same idea: problem, and then monster, and then the real cause of the problem. But they add some other stuff, like with Magnavalu, he's not like just he's not just causing the rampage, or at least like as we thought. He is actually just feeding himself on the monsters. And then we have Naru and Bushi, which are just trying to mate with each other. And they accidentally made the rampage happen because of that. On Sunbreak, it feels like generic, you know, because it's like, okay, we have this powerful monster, and its only goal is to destroy us. So we need to deal with it. Oh, it turns out that other monster was the actual cause of the problem. And he also just wants to destroy us. So you have to deal with it. So I don't know, it feels kind of generic, you know? But there is more to the game. There is the endgame part of it. And I have some issues with that. While Rise Endgame was just to do the rampages, which are this kind of tower defense like levels, and it was just that. You will do the rampages, get the rewards, and then craft powerful gear. On Sunbreak, the endgame actually satisfies me more, because you can fight every monster in the game. Like a more powerful version of every monster in the game. And what I really like about that is that you can balance the difficulty of all of those monsters. So on endgame, the monsters will go from level 1 to level 300. And you can freely adjust the level. So if you have trouble with a monster, but you want to fight him, you can put him on a lower level. Like, let's say it's really easy to fight a Great Izuchi, because the Great Izuchi is like the first monster you unlock in the game. So he's really easy to deal with. So you can put him on level 300. And then there is like Gormagala. Gormagala is a really hard monster that you unlock only towards the end of the game. So since he is too hard, you can put him on like level 150. And now you have the monsters with kinda the same difficulty, you know? Because you leveled up the Great Izuchi and you lowered the level of Gormagala. So the difficulty kinda gets balanced among all monsters. So I like that. Mostly because I like early game monsters. Because the idea that I have in my head is that you cannot fight Elder Dragons every day. Elder Dragons are not like a problem, like a day by day problem. It's not something you have to deal with all the time. It's just like they will show up eventually. You deal with them, and then they don't show up for some time. But then you would have Great Izuchi's problem. Like a Great Izuchi is attacking your farm, a Great Izuchi is attacking some traders, or he is making a trade route dangerous, so we need to deal with that. That's like how I understand it. It's kind of the same thing with Payday. Payday is a game where you rob banks, and there is some really big banks in there, and there is some small banks. And I enjoy doing these small banks more, because it's like, in my head, it's not every day that you will have the opportunity to do a heist on a big bank, right? So to survive the day by day, you will have to do some some smaller heists. So that's why I enjoy the more common stuff more. And the same happened with Monster Hunter. So I can just make so the problem is that the early game monsters are too easy, but then when I get to endgame, I can just level them up, and I can make them harder to match my equipment, right? The equipment I got from completing the game story. I don't know if it's too hard to understand, just drop a comment and I'll try to make it better. But that's the idea. So I really like that end game because of that, but I don't like that. I don't like the end game because, well, on the story there is these parasites that make the monsters aggressive, and the end game is that all the monsters you fight on the end game have this parasite on them. And the parasites introduced a gimmick to the game, which is there will be like these bright spots on the monsters, and you have to hit those bright spots, because if you deal enough damage to them, they will kind of explode and deal a bunch of damage to the monster. So you have, I don't like that. I don't like having kind of this target, this like hit here sign, which is something I really liked in the Monster Hunter game. The monsters do not say, oh, hit in this place to deal big damage, right? It's not like you go to older games and the monster will start flashing, right? To signalize that you are dealing damage to it. Like you go to Metroid, every time you hit the enemy, he will flash. Or there is some games, I don't remember if this happened with Metroid, but there is games that the monster will flash on a certain part of its body, so you'll know that that is his weak spot. So you need to hit there. On Monster Hunter, this does not happen. You still have damage numbers, so you can like see, okay, if I hit here, I deal 100 damage, and if I hit in this other place, I will deal 300 damage. So I'll hit in this place. But you do not have this kind of intrusive, immersion breaking, flashing points. But then you get to endgame and they added it. So I don't really like that. I don't like this hit here to deal damage stuff. And all the monsters also have one attack. They all have the same one attack, which is if you don't deal enough damage in a given time, the monster will explode and deal damage on everyone that is around it. This explosion will not deal damage to the monster itself, of course, but that's how it works. You deal damage, on the bright spots to prevent the monster from exploding. But if you don't, if you're not able to deal enough damage to the bright spots, the monster will explode and cause damage to everyone around him. And I don't really like that gimmick because it makes every monster work the same way, you know? Because every monster will have the same one attack. And I don't like that because up to that point, every monster I had to deal with in a different way. Of course, there would be monsters that were similar to each other, like the Great Izuchi. It's similar to the Great Rogi, which is also similar to the Great Bagi, but they all have different gimmicks. Like the Bagi will put you to sleep, the Rogi will have these poison clouds. So even though they are kind of similar, they have proper gimmicks that are just for them. But then you go fight them on the end game, and all three of them have this same one attack where they will explode and deal damage to whoever is around them. So that kind of made me avoid the end game, and there would be situations where I would just not fight the main target monsters, because on endgame you can have quests with multiple targets. So it's like you have to fight this one, this monster, and the third monster will be the one with the explosion gimmick. Well, let me try to explain that better. You can have quests with 3 monsters, right? On endgame, 3 targets. The first 2 will be normal monsters, and the third one will be the one with the explosion gimmick, where you have to hit the bright spots to deal damage to prevent the explosion. So it got to a point where I would just fight the 2 normal monsters, and then I would use a mod to complete the quest without having to fight the third one, because I really didn't enjoy that. And after I got better in the game, these monsters with the explosion gimmick, they got easier than the normal versions. Because they will, if these monsters attack you, they will inflict you with the Blood Blight status, which will deplete your health. Will constantly deplete your health. But if you attack the monster while you have the Blood Blight status, you will recover health. So eventually, when you get used to the game, these monsters will get way easier, because you can just play super aggressive and you can just heal your health. You can heal yourself, and this can also nullify some effects. Like I was playing against a Pookie Pookie a couple days ago, and I played against the normal version and against the gimmicky version. And this monster can poison you. So what happened was that the normal version was way harder, because the monster would poison me, and then I have only one option. I can use potions to heal myself, but the potions are limited. I need to, like, if I use all the potions, I need to stop and go back to the camp and restock, get more potions. So that's one option. The other is to use an antidote, which will remove the poison. So those are the options. I get poisoned, and then I can use an antidote to remove the poison, and if I don't have antidote, I can just keep drinking health potions until the effect wears off by itself. But when I fight the gimmick Pookie Pookie, the one that will inflict blood blight, I can just ignore the poison. Because let's say the monster will poison me, and I'll get the blood blight effect, right? So then I can just play aggressive. I can just run towards the monster and start hitting it. Because I will heal myself faster by dealing damage to the monster, then the poison is able to remove health from me. So I'll have both effects. The monster will poison me and apply the blood blight. The poison will constantly remove health for a certain amount of time, and the blood blight will also remove health, constantly remove health, but if I hit the monster, if I play super aggressively, and I keep hitting the monster, the blood blight will heal me. So these monsters, the endgame monsters, just get too easy for me. When I first got to endgame, sure, when I was still figuring out the game and I was still understanding how everything works, then it was a problem. But after a while, after I realized like how to use the weapons and how the monster attacks worked, then it got like very easy to deal with the blood blight. So right now that's what I do. I just fight the normal versions of the monsters, which I think to be way harder, and then I just use a mod to like complete the quest, to automatically complete the quests. So yeah, that was Monster Hunter Sunbreak, which is a great game. I really recommend that. Even more than just to Rise. You can't buy just Sunbreak, unfortunately. It's sold as a DLC for Rise. So you have to buy Rise and buy the DLC Sunbreak. The DLC for it, which is Sunbreak. But yeah, I recommend way more to buy both of them than just buy Rise, because Sunbreak adds a bunch of other stuff. And if you're on PC, you can just mod the game to remove the aspects you don't like. Like as I said, I don't enjoy the bright spots, right? But there is a mod that removes the bright spots. So I have that installed all the time. When you get to endgame, they will also add kind of this red filter on top of the monsters, which I don't like, because it makes all the monsters look the same. All the monsters have this kind of red tint on them, but there is a mod that removes that. So yeah, on PC is really great, because you don't like something, you just mod it out, right? So it's a great game. The community, on the other hand, it's trash. It's absolute garbage. I don't want to extend myself too much on this one, because it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of depressing talk. But Monster Hunter will have, well, it will have the asshole problem, as every game I have, but it also have kind of elitism and tribalism problems. So like on elitism, it's kind of easy. If you're a new player and you just ask something like, "Oh, this monster is being too hard. I can't pass. I can't pass this part of the game because of this monster," or like, "Oh, I don't really understand how this weapon works," or whatever. there will be someone that will just say it's a skill issue, or like it's a new problem because that monster is really easy. And like if you saw the my previous video where I talked about the Rise, I talked about like triple carting for Village Castle. And like Village is the easiest rank of that game. But again, it was my first time on a Monster Hunter game. So it is expected that the game will be hard to me. But on my experience, most of the player base seems to not understand that. They will just say, oh, it's a new problem, because the game is too easy. And I'm seeing that with Wilds right now. Like they released Monster Hunter Wilds a couple weeks ago, and I've seen a bunch of people saying, complaining about how easy that game is. But they don't like stop for a minute to just think about it. Like, is it really easy, or is it easy because I'm already used to this franchise, this 20 years old franchise, and I already kind of know the monsters and I already know the weapons. So yeah, that's a big problem in there, elitism. And there is also tribalism, which is you're not allowed to like something that I don't like games. There will be people saying like, oh, my favorite game is, I don't know, Monster Hunter World, and you're not allowed to have another favorite game. Because let's say if your favorite game is Monster Hunter Rise, this means Monster Hunter World is not your favorite game, which means you hate Monster Hunter World. And this happens with everything. It happens with games, it happens with weapons, it happens with monsters, which is really funny to see. Because it's like, you're not allowed to have a different opinion of the majority of the player base. So for the majority of them, Gormagala is like a peak monster. It's the best of the best. Or at least that's how I saw it. So we all love Gormagala. And if you say that your favorite monster is, I don't know, Puki Puki. Puki Puki is your favorite monster. If Puki Puki is your favorite monster, that means Gormagala is not your favorite monster, which means you hate Gormagala. So yeah, that's a big problem in this community. But yeah, as I said, I don't want to extend myself too much because, depressing talking. But yeah, the game is great. If you never played it, and the opportunity comes to you, go ahead and play that. Whatever game you want to play. If you look at Rise and you don't like it, just look towards other game. Because they are kind of all different, Like World will have a aesthetics, and then Rise will have another aesthetics, and then if you go to other games, they will have another aesthetics. So you will eventually enjoy one of the games in this franchise. So yeah, just, I don't know, just go after them and see for yourself, right? Like, just look at some images, look at some videos, and then try to find the game that better suits you. Because I'm pretty sure it's a 20 years old franchise. There will be at least one game in there that suits you. and like there is 14 different weapons. One of them will make you happy. You will find joy playing at least one of them. And also 70 monsters per game. And you also don't really need to fight all of them. Like right now, I'm playing Rise for the third time. And I got to Endgame, and I so far didn't. I didn't fought a Legombi, the bunny monster. I didn't fought him, not even once, you know. So if you don't like a monster, you have the option of just not fighting him, which is really great. But yeah, that's Monster Hunter Sunbreak.
Can you hear, can you hear, can you hear my voice? Coming through